Hello, absolutely delighted to be here. My name's Katie Razzall. I'm the BBC's culture and media editor, and I am here proudly on this panel representing the so-called legacy media with two journalists who have struck out on their own in the thriving newsletter market. So Jim Waterson, previously the media editor at The Guardian, I'm sure you all know that, who now has his London Centric on Substack and is doing some really powerful journalism, including around mass evictions, which even had the Prime Minister sit up and take notice. And then we have this media buccaneer, Lachlan, Cartwright, who for years was at outlets including the New York Post, Vanity Fair, the National Enquirer.
For my sins?
Yes, and for his sins, but now for his sins has set up on his own Breaker Media, podcast and newsletter, and you too have been dishing out scoops. So let's get straight in. Welcome to you both. And Jim, if we start with you, we had Kath Viner, the Guardian editor, on a panel much earlier, and that is a brand that is thriving, particularly in the digital space, and yet you decided to head off into the unknown. Why? And are there things you can do now that you couldn't do at The Guardian?
Guardian was the only place I ever wanted to work, and I was such a sad teenager. Media editor at The Guardian was my dream job as a teenager. So I literally I made it. But then very kindly, The Guardian offered a voluntary redundancy round. I had that one moment, like, what would you do with it? And I thought, I'd give myself 6 months. I'd see if I could build something on my own, taking some of the things that I've been reporting on around the shift to creator economy, but basically breaking news entirely on my own with no one around me. And it's turned out that it works. I've now got a small team and we're able to go toe-to-toe with some of the other outlets.
So you're not totally on your own anymore, but
not
you were
totally
at the beginning. And you know, this panel, slightly tongue-in-cheek, is called Journalism on a Credit
It's kind of true, though.
Well, I was going to say,
see my credit card bill.
Right, for you, when you launched last year, Breaker Media, how accurate was that description?
It was very accurate because I did not take outside funding. So what little bit of savings I had for a down payment on an apartment in New York City, I used to start Breaker. My father, late father, RIP, was 41 when he started his own business, albeit an accountant. And I'm very competitive, so I was 42 when I decided to go off in this direction.
And how nerve-wracking was it?
It was, there were the first 4 months, and no joke, I was waking up in the middle of the night spewing my guts up with stress because I was worried I was going to lose my life savings, and I thought, Breaker's not going to make it. And it was a very, very stressful period. It must be fun when it's someone else's money, when it's TPG or the roofing bloke Standard Industry who bankroll Puck, but when it's your own coin and you're in this race against yourself, which is incredibly stressful, which is your savings depleting at the same time as the subscription growth. And there was a period there that it just wasn't growing. And I thought, I'm absolutely cooked here. But thankfully, due to a few different things that we did, including scoops, including relaunching the pod with a number of big name guests, including throwing a old school downtown Manhattan media party, but mainly the scoops, the subscribers followed, the revenue followed, and we got to the first anniversary in February and we're profitable.
Congratulations. Have you used up all your voluntary redundancy money?
Yep, it was terrifying. I used to work at BuzzFeed. If anyone here helped fund BuzzFeed back in the day, thank you so much. We burnt through so much money and it was great fun. But I'd learned my lesson and I saw what a free snack wall could do to a budget and decided to just focus relentlessly on, can I drive up the number of people who are paying? It turns out that scoops are what drive subscriptions. It really is as simple as that. And secondly, can I just do things that I'm really proud of, which have impact? So a good week for me is something that makes people pay, but also that then gets picked up, whether it's by the Prime Minister or by someone else.
Well, let's have a look at some of your scoops, because you've gone from the widest remit possible to going hyper-local on London stories that go directly to paying consumers, as you said. And one of the biggest stories was the one I mentioned, that one about one of London's most powerful landlords. And I just want people to see a clip of that in case you missed it.
London Centric's reporting on how Aziz Aziz's Criterion Capital tried to evict hundreds of people was raised at Prime Minister's Questions with Keir Starmer.
I condemn any unfair evictions.
But we didn't stop there. We went door to door around London knocking on properties owned by that landlord. We kept finding tenants had been issued identical legal paperwork saying their flat was safe, even though they didn't remember letting anyone into their house to do the electrical tests. So I decided to try and see if we could find the electrician who'd supposedly done all of these tests. Because if a landlord issues a fake certificate, that's a fine of up to £40,000 per property.
So Jim, just fill us in. What did you find out about this safety certificate? Such an impressive piece of journalism.
Well, I got a nice letter from Cartwright.
But we were talking about that earlier.
Which is always a bit, and that is the bit that's always quite scary when you're on your own. The amazing thing with The Guardian is the training and the institution and the legal team who are brilliant and all the editors who can advise you. And when you're on your own reporting on a guy who's a literal billionaire and how he's been treating his tenants, that's very scary. But to get a story from essentially, Polly Smythe, who's here with me today, is one of my reporters, a tiny team of basically 2 full-time staff to get that story at Prime Minister's questions, to get change, to get the sort of power of the state finally focused on it because of our reporting. The fun thing with this is you can pick and choose your stories. You've got to go very hard on a handful of topics, but if you do that and you get a reputation for that, not only can you change things, but you can also get more people bringing in. It very quickly starts to get momentum.
And what did you find? What was the end result?
The end result of that one is still going. I think council pending.
The one that keeps on giving.
It is one that we're sticking with, and there's still more people coming forward.
Amazing. And Lachlan, we're going to play a clip of yours. You do all sorts of things, but one of the things you do, which sounds quite fun, is go into restaurants, I think for free, and do interviews with people. You might want to explain a bit about that, but you're essentially treating media executives like celebrities. And let's just have a look at your interview with the New Yorker editor-in-chief, David Remnick.
It's clear to me you think deeply about the post-Remnick era.
You have to. I'd be selfish not to.
So who would potentially succeed you?
What's the next question? Max Tanny thought Barack Obama
was going to do it. I believe that.
I'm not sure Obama wants to work that hard.
That doesn't look like a restaurant.
It was a 2-star Michelin restaurant called Saga in Lower Manhattan. We started in dive bars and now we're being invited into 2-star Michelin restaurants. The Breaker Pod rotates to different venues in New York, and New York is the backdrop. So restaurants, coffee shops, bars, it's a logistical bloody nightmare, but it's a lot of fun. And YouTube saw that and reached out to my producer and said, we love this concept, how can we help? And they brought us in, they waived monetization, they're helping us in the background grow it. And now the level of guests that we're getting on this pod, I used to have to beg, borrow, and steal, including Tina, who came on last season. And thank you, Tina, for inviting me to this and to all the truth tellers. But now we're getting people saying, I want to be on the Breaker Pod. I want my person on the Breaker Pod. I want our venue on the Breaker Pod.
And let's talk about your scoops, because you did scoop bigger outlets with the news that David Ellison was hosting a party for Donald Trump, just ahead of the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Correct.
And I'm sure everyone in this room knows there just is a certain deal that is going through federal regulation
that's right
now involving his takeover of Warner Brothers Discovery. So a scoop like that, you're obviously, people are still willing to talk to you, but are they as willing,
yes,
your sources, as they were when you were in more mainstream
In some
media?
cases, even more. Because they believe in journalism, they believe in independent journalism, they want to see Breaker thrive, and they'll come to me now over the Times. I broke a huge deal story last year about Puck acquiring Airmail. That was due to be hand packaged up and given to the New York Times, and I was able to get in there and scoop them because people will want to support independent journalism. I mean, the Rupert Murdoch 95th birthday, I'd been tracking, movements of different people. I thought, there's going to be a party. He's 95.
I think we've got some photographs
and someone just called me a few days before and said, you need to be at the Grill on Saturday at 6:30. And that's someone who, shouldn't be doing what they were doing, but they believed in Breaker. And I was the only journo there. I was the only journalist, and there were so many Murdoch watchers and people who cover the Murdochs. But we had that scoop to ourselves.
There they are. There was a scoop, 95th birthday. So, you're clearly having fun. You're doing it in a kind of scrappy startup style.
They were even on the joke. They brought me out, a slice of Murdoch's birthday cake, the Salzburger. So we went up to their barbecue, brought me out some barbecue food, and we did a fun taste test. So
you'd wooed them. You'd wooed the people. How did you make it happen? And
my old school training, I was
going to ask, could you have done it? Could you have just set this up straight away? Or did you need the training that we've...
look, my old school training was on these type of jobs, you get there super early. So the Murdoch thing, although that source said get there at 6:30, we got there at 3 p.m. And we were sitting off the grill, and I was watching as all the security bods started massing. Because I knew there'd be a ton of security. Jared and Ivanka were meant to be there. There were Secret Service Advance team, Rishi Sunak's team, Tony Blair's team, NYPD. It was... in terms of security, it's one of the events I haven't seen as much security. So I got there early, and I went up to the security bods, and I said, "G'day, I'm Lachlan, Breaker Media. We're going to be here all evening. We're going to be taking photos. We're not going to be antagonizing people. We're not going to be getting in one's grills, but we are going to be here reporting." And now a couple of those blokes looked at me like I was a bag of old sick, but several of them started nodding, and it was a nod of respect. And it just meant throughout the evening, we could maneuver around, we could do what we needed to do, because they respected the fact that I respected them. And if you were just some kid who had it rolled up and started getting in people's faces, the Secret Service would have taken you out. They would have taken you around the corner, and you wouldn't have been able to get that result.
Jim, have you been getting those nods of respect?
Not quite sure. I'd take it if... I mean, what is fun, though, is I've got... My WhatsApp number is in the middle of every story, and it is that sort of... We're talking about sourcing. I used to write for The Guardian. You get millions of views on everything you write there. You're on the top of one of the biggest homepages in the world. But then you have your WhatsApp number in the middle of a thing, and people feel like they know you. And that's the really odd bit with going out on your own, with that sort of solo bit of... My phone just blows up with everything that's going on in London. And the worst thing is everyone thinks I've got 20 reporters to cover it all. And you sort of have to slightly, while I'm trying to juggle getting the kids to bed with pretending, yeah, no, we'll definitely look into that tomorrow and all of that. They don't quite realize that I'm the CEO, chief exec, the CTO, the whatever title I want to give myself, because there's not really anyone else other than a couple of reporting staff.
Do you think you could have done it without the previous training you've had in big newsrooms?
No, and I think that's a real problem. I think this is basically the start of something that will develop into something else, with a few people who have a background in traditional media trying to slightly redo the business model. Because if you haven't worked with the best legal teams, if you haven't worked with the best editors, I don't know how you'd have the instinct to know. I mean, I'm not quite turning up to Murdoch's parties, but to know that when to have had sort of 15 years of working in mainstream newsrooms with brilliant editors who will tell you how to work the story, how to get the person on the phone, and then how to convince them to go on the record. Yeah, I wouldn't have a clue. And that's the real problem. I'm trying to reverse into an influencer space where there's all these people who are enthusiastic and trying to do journalism but don't quite know how to land the story. So that's the opportunity that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to turn London Centric into a thing where we're playing in the same space as all of these sort of upstarts, but we've actually got a bit of the background in how to work a story.
And I agree with that. I've had 2 decades of... I'm probably the only person who's worked with Rupert Murdoch, Barry Diller, Jay Penske, and David Pecker. I've seen the best, the best, the worst, the worst. I wouldn't have been able to pull this off and have the level of sourcing and have, people know me. My cell number is at the top of the newsletter, at the Breaker tip line, which I man. I say 24/7, but it's not. It's 20/27. But I wouldn't have been able to do this without that training and that industrial knowledge and the writing skills. I've written for the New York Times Magazine. I've gone through the Mossad of fact checkers. I'm a contributor with Vanity Fair. I still write pieces for them. So you do need this training. And what I'm now doing is I'm investing. So I have 2 interns from the J School at NYU and from Stern, the business school, and they're with me.
Giving them
and
your
I'm investing
expertise.
back, and we're paying our interns more than News Corp.
I don't want to run out of time without asking you, and you're not going to answer it, but maybe you'll give us a hint, which is, how do your salaries compare? Are you managing to make money in the way that whatever you
I'm now
make
making
for?
more than I was making in legacy media. And I was
were you
very
well paid in legacy
I was
media?
very well compensated. I had big gigs. I was editor-in-large of the Daily Beast, special correspondent for the Hollywood Reporter.
Are you working harder now, though?
Yeah, I'm working 7 days a week, 18, 20 hours a day.
I mean, it's also 7 days a week. I mean, there's no moan from me, but this is a full, I haven't taken a holiday since summer 24. It's like, it is intense.
I'm going to take you on a holiday.
Yeah, all right.
Straight after this, we'll go off.
I imagine it'll be quite fun with you as well, yeah.
You might not get a word in, though.
We'll see. If you get back alive, your missus will...
But you live and die by whether your paid subscribers are going up, and the fear that they're just going to sort of walk away from you is brutal.
And churn.
Churn is very, very real. Understandably, people can't afford that many things. But, I mean, it's able to support sort of 2 members of staff now in addition to me, and hopefully maybe more in the future. But, there's the best part of 5,000 people paying now for a newsletter about London who weren't doing that 18 months ago.
Just before we end it, because it's gone from 2 minutes to 1 minute, just like that, which is, there's a lot of media consolidation going on.
Yeah.
But there isn't yet in the newsletter market. We all have to have loads of subscriptions. Where do you think it's headed?
I've said this publicly. We are in the great unbundling still. What comes next is the great bundling. Someone very smart, a media entrepreneur, someone much smarter than I am with numbers, is going to come along and say, I want the culture one. I want Feed Me, Emily Sundberg's great Substack. I want the London one. I want Jim Waterson.
Isn't that just creating a magazine?
Yeah, that's an old school magazine. Instead of paying $12, $15 and $18 over here, you have one bundle, and then all that back end stuff that I was dealing with at 6 a.m. this morning that someone said, I can't log in, I didn't get the email, I'm doing customer service, ad sales, all events, all that stuff is taken care of at the back end.
If anyone wants to buy me, come see me afterwards. But But yeah, dealing with credit cards at sort of 6 a.m. and returns on that is a lot. And the one thing is that video you saw, I spend a lot of money making those videos. They give me reach, and then TikTok sends you a check for 50 quid. So there's a surreal thing we're in. You'll pay for the newsletter, but you won't pay for the video, and that's where the reach is. But the audience and the way you can drive the story forward is with the newsletter.
Absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much. We rattled through that. You were both brilliant. Jim and Lachlan, thank you all.